Good afternoon. Today is lesson 14, and we're going to put the title in as Missing Numbers in subtraction. Missing numbers in subtraction. Now this is kind of going to be somewhat of a review because we have already talked about the fact that addition and subtraction are the inverse operations. They're opposite operations. So that's going to come into play today, but we'll be looking at exactly how we deal with those missing numbers in subtraction. So, lesson 14, missing numbers in subtraction. Now, if we start out with a simple subtraction problem, and we're going to write this out just real simple so you can see the concept, and we'll use that concept as we go on. But if we have 3 plus 4 equals 7, we can read that as 3 plus 4 equals 7. We can, because it is an inverse operation, also read 7 minus 4 equals 3. So that just shows that we can read it flipped either direction. We just have to change the words a little bit. Now at the same end, I can say 7 minus 4 equals 3, reading it this direction. Or I can say 3 plus 4 equals 7, reading that direction. So again, that's just a visual reminder of the fact that we do have the inverse operations. So here we would have adding, and when we invert it, we would subtract. And on this one, we would subtract or invert it and we add. So that's just a simple problem. So I know that you would know those without us thinking, even if I gave you an empty space. But I wanted you to see again those inverse operation traits at work. Now in a subtraction problem, there are always going to be 3 numbers. We're going to let's write it down as the first number minus the second number equals the third number. Now, as a straight subtraction problem, obviously if I have the first and the second only, well, what am I going to do to find my missing? Well, I'm going to subtract. I'm going to say the first minus the second will give me the third. It's a straight out subtraction problem. Now, if my first number is missing, where I have it looking like this, something minus my second number equals my third number. Well, here is where I will turn it into an addition problem, because I'm going to read from the bottom to the top. So if I did have, go ahead and write underneath it, something minus 2 equals 7. Well, I'm doing the inverse reading, which hopefully you remember by looking up at the top of your page, excuse me, would be an addition problem. I would say 7 plus 2 equals 9. And then I'm going to double check it. 9 minus 2 equals 7. So if your top one is missing, just throw it in reverse, do the opposite, do the inverse, and you would add. So I hope you're seeing how that works in your head. When you have it this way, It's just a straight out subtraction problem. So you just do the problem. When you have it with the top number missing, you're going to throw it in reverse and it becomes an addition problem to find your first number. So you have your first, your second, and your third. That is the way you find your first one and your third one. Now we're going to take a look at how to find the second. It's a little bit one step more, but it's not any more difficult. Now, if I have my middle number, my second number missing, so we have first minus our unknown second equals the third. Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to flip and then subtract. So you want to, and let's make that nice and big so we can see it. So you want to flip those two spots and then a straight subtract. So if we're looking at it with numbers, what it would actually look like is 7 minus our unknown number, which would be represented by a letter, equals 2. Well, I'm going to flip here and here, so I end up with 7 minus 2 equals my unknown number. And then it's just a straight subtraction problem. So if you're missing your second, you flip and then subtract. So flip and subtract. So if you can remember those 3 steps for the 3 different places of a subtraction problem, you'll have no problem whatsoever. Now, what I'm going to do on the next screen is I'm going to go through all of them. You can write them down if you want to, or you can just look at what you've already written, because that's just a quick review that we'll have of everything together. Again, you don't have to write this down. It's just a review. You can look over what we've already written. But remember, we have our first, our minuend, our second, which is the subtrahend, and then the difference, which is the third that we've been calling it. Now, if we are missing the difference, well, we have our first one, we subtract the second one, and we get our difference. It is a straight subtraction problem. So we subtract. If we are missing the top, the minuend, and we have the subtrahend, and we know the difference, or the third, sorry, I got busy using the proper terms. We know the third, which is the difference. We would throw it in reverse and make it an addition problem. And finally, sorry about that. If we have the first one and we're missing the second one, and we have the third, which is the difference, we would flip, and then this one comes up, and then it turns into a straight subtraction problem again. So you just have to follow the steps. What are you going to do? Depends upon what number's missing. But always make sure when you are completely done that the numbers that you have, you're looking at palm trees. They make sense. You don't see penguins. always put the number back into the equation. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, put a little star or a little question mark next to something that you're not sure of, and we will go over this in review and do some work on it next week. Have a wonderful evening.